G'day, how are you? It's Jackie here, hanging out in my art room just for a tiny wee while before I have to go back and start clients again for today. I really like, I am going to jump into today's topic, but I really like kind of busting out a few hours in the office and then coming in here for half an hour before I actually start clients. It kind of helps me to reset per se. So here I am on to my next project. Now, I'm here because this is the second video where I'm going to be discussing this concept of parasites. And as I said in the last video, it is a gigantic topic and there is an enormous amount of information that I want to give you access to that you won't know about, that will really have quite a big impact on your life and how you live it and the choices that you make for yourself. But I need to break it up into chunks, otherwise it just gets too overwhelming to take in. And the best things come about when you can implement it in like little steps. So if you didn't catch last week's video, it's titled Parasites to Cleanse or Not. Yes, I did talk about that and some really great points to do with cleansing or not cleansing and parasites, but I also discussed a whole lot more in that video. So if you haven't caught it, I would suggest you go and do that and then come on back and watch this one, okay? Or it actually doesn't matter. There's no real stepping stone process through these videos. You can pick it up wherever you want to. Now, today I want to talk about parasites, but from a completely different perspective. When people first start coming to me for sessions, if the concept of parasites comes up in a session, and somebody's own innate wisdom will find all different ways, very creative ways to be able to address parasites, so it doesn't come up as needing to be repaired, or the person's own innate wisdom is going to run a very particular repair process. It's never the same for everybody. It's always very different. So it comes up in sessions in a lot of different ways. But when this concept of needing to address parasites in numerous different ways comes up, quite often the person automatically thinks of what they've been taught about parasites, and they get the vision of parasites in their head, and they often think of them inside the body and of being bad and all that kind of thing. But parasites can be so much more, and they are so much more. And what I'm going to go in and talk to you about now comes up pretty much on a daily basis, I would think. That's how prevalent this is and such a big deal it is. Now, I could have sworn I just saw fluff on that. I hate it when that happens. I'm making beads for a necklace because I had a dream about a necklace and now I just have to make it so that the vision can leave me and then I can move on to another project. I'm going to give you a few different variations of the ways that this can come up and where parasites can come up. And let me just say that even 17 years in to this, I still very regularly have people's or even animals' own innate wisdom bring up this concept of parasites in different ways that I have never considered before or seen before or known of before. And so I'm constantly learning and I'm constantly in awe and inspired by what is happening inside us and in the world around us, and also by the way that our own innate wisdoms regard things and the way that they want to address things. It just is fascinating, to say the least. So I'm going to give you a few insights into these different ways that parasites can come up. Let's just say that your own innate wisdom, we're doing a session and it says that we need to address a parasite as a priority. And so clearly in this case, there is a parasite that is causing some amount of imbalance or compromise, causing some types of experiences or symptoms in the body. And so this parasite comes up as a priority. More often than not, people first think that, oh, it must be a parasite in the body that's causing problems. No, not often the case. So one example of different kinds of parasites is people. A person can be a parasite. What they do and how they do it to you or around you can be parasitic. Very, very parasitic. And this can even be worse than what true parasites can do. It can even be worse. So you can get people where their behaviour towards you directly or indirectly is parasitic, where it is invasionary to you. It invades you. It could invade. And a lot of the times people are mostly not aware of this. They have little awareness of how invasionary or how parasitic a person can be. You might get a sense that you don't gel with somebody. You might get a sense that I don't like that person. I don't know why I don't like that person, but I don't like that person. That would usually be a good indicator of an individual that to you is extremely parasitic. And that's when you would be wanting to have very strong boundaries, and you would be wanting to take measures, and you would be wanting to, depending on how much contact you've had with them, you would be wanting to address any effects that have come from their parasitic nature, because it's usually that they have parasitic behaviors. Their mind, the way that their mind will be working, can be quite parasitic towards other people. Their energy can be parasitic. They can actually have attachments and different types of energy matrices that are part of them that drive this parasitic nature. They're parasitic in nature. So there can be lots of different reasons why somebody is parasitic. That is less what we focus on. We don't go looking for, but why are they parasitic? And we don't do that. Why? Because understanding the cause and effect is important. Understanding where the parasitic nature has come from, or where the parasitic effect to you has come from, is important. But understanding what we need to do about that for you, so that you repair, you heal, you become stronger on the other side of this, is actually the big focus here. And so that you learn from the experiences, so that your own immune system, your own microbiome, your own body systems, your own mind, your own consciousness can become aware of these factors and prevent them, or even eliminate them completely from happening again and causing compromise to you again, because that's what they do. They cause compromise. So let's say, for example, that you're out shopping somewhere, and you have gone into a store to purchase something. You're waiting in line to be served, and somebody behind you in the line, it can be anything. It can be them getting angry, them getting frustrated, them getting impatient with having to wait in line. They might be just feeling really yucky, even just feeling really yucky, like I don't like this person standing behind me. that kind of shorter interaction with somebody who, yes, might have a more parasitic nature to them. And I need to jump in here and say that it doesn't mean that these people are bad, right? It doesn't mean that they're bad. But some people can really get into states. Their mind can become so closed, so corrupt, so egoic that then their behavior and their attitudes and their beliefs and things like this manifest in part as being very parasitic. So when we're talking about this, we're not pointing at anybody and saying that is a bad person or you are bad or anything. We're not doing that. That is just the way that it is. That is that person's individual journey. That is all it is. So, in those fleeting experiences where you're really just coming into contact with somebody for a very short period of time, it is not as likely that that kind of exchange is going to come up in your session where it needs to be addressed, or let's say you're not having sessions, but you are aware of some other ways that you can do cleanses of sorts from when you've been into contact with somebody that's quite parasitic. It's not common that you will then have to take steps to try and cleanse yourself of that parasitic nature. Here's where I want to very quickly say something about that though, because this is a big topic. If you have a belief system that says, I need protection, I am vulnerable, it is possible for someone or something to attach itself onto me or to influence me or to affect me, then it will. Because your beliefs are everything. Your belief systems are everything. So that's when it will come up in someone's session. That's when a fleeting experience with somebody who is parasitic in nature will absolutely affect you. And it could affect you for days, weeks, months, if you're the type of person who really holds on to that and carries it and kind of believes that that person has this ability to connect to you or attach to you or put something on you or affect you. So your belief systems are everything. When you address belief systems like that, then you become far more resilient and you have far more natural, healthy, strong boundaries that come from many, 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 many of your systems, let alone your mind becomes that belief. Then those interactions with those kinds of people are simply, they become experiences to observe, people to learn from, and not something then that you have to rush off and find a cleansing process for it where you're having to smudge or do whatever it is that you're wanting to do, or have a body talk session. So it is not very often. Sometimes people will come for a session and say, oh, I ran into this person down the street yesterday and they were so aggressive and I just felt all this energy coming from them and I feel like I've been affected from them, and so can you see whether we need to do anything in a session from them? And more often than not that we don't. There's no connections, there's no parasitic connections there that are residual that need to be addressed. It's more just that the person needs to go through, finish digesting the experience, because we all digest experiences, we digest the world around us, and also learn from the experience, move on from the experience. And that's what we don't do as human beings. We really don't. We don't learn from experiences. We don't see people and experiences as teachers. So that's a big thing. So yes, people can be parasitic. Those ones that we have fleeting contact with are not likely to come up and cause a massive amount of issues within the body-mind complex, where then you're having to have a session and the innate wisdom says, that person that you met for a fleeting moment, this is an issue, it's caused issues within the body, now we need to address it. So less likely. What is more likely is that people who have been in and around your circle who you've become entangled with are going to come up more as parasitic. Now, not everyone is, because not everyone is parasitic in nature, right? Or they don't have parasitic qualities about them. And again, we're not pointing at anyone and saying that this is bad. Sometimes a parasitic nature can be neediness. And where does that come from? Gosh, there are so many places that this neediness can come from. And more often than not, it's just deeply saddening. It's deeply saddening. So it's not a bad person. We need to remember that. So yes, it's going to be usually people that you've had a longer experience with. It can be family members, it can be your partner, it can even be children, it can be friends, co-workers, okay, community members, people in sports teams, people in your other groups that you're part of. Anybody can be parasitic, and they can have a really strong parasitic nature where like large parts of them are parasitic, and they can have certain behaviors that are quite parasitic. So when they get triggered by certain things, then certain behaviors and habits and patterns that they have become parasitic. Then that has an effect on you. It can have an effect on any part of your body-mind complex. It can affect the way that organs function, the way that endocrines function, so hormone-producing glands. It can affect the way that your three brains, head brain, heart brain, gut brain, it can affect the way your three brains work. It can affect the way that any one of your systems work. And usually it is a cascade of compromises and imbalances that it then it triggers within the body. So then you have multiple areas in the body which then get affected because of this parasitic factor that's in the environment. So there is an enormous amount of things that we can do to not only repair that, get all these parts of the body clicked back into function, get them working again, get all these parts of the body synchronized so that they're operating as one, the way that they're naturally intended to. But also it brings to your awareness that this is even an issue in the first place. And that is very empowering, because it gives you the option to make totally different choices for yourself. And I think that in itself is amazing. You then learn from the experiences, and they generally speaking will just stop repeating because you've learned from the experiences. Here's another one. Pardon me. I need water here and I don't have water. Here's another one that is extremely important, and this is one that I find that a lot of people miss. Sometimes we can be pretty okay in recognizing that somebody is a bit parasitic, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they're always invading of you, right? They're being invasionary, where it feels like that they can be on top of you or be in your space or take your breath away or always be there or be trying to copy you or whatever it is. Parasite can also be taking from you. That's actually quite common. That comes up probably more often than what the other does, is where they suck from you, they deplete you, they take parts of you from you. Not literally, but they can have this drawing effect on functions of the body-mind complex, on energy systems. They can deplete who you are in your essence, and you can really feel very crappy after by being around them or after being around them. So it's just important to be aware of that. The thing that I find that people have very little awareness of is parasites that are bigger. It's bigger. So these can be entire groups of people. An entire group of people can be anything. It can be an organization, a group from anywhere. It can be from and I want to be so careful, because I want us to not discount a group of people just simply because we have a belief of that group's too big, or it simply wouldn't be the case with that group, or whether the mind can't see it, because we really struggle if the mind can't perceive it in that moment, then it just can't be. And that's not the case at all. So it can be a small group, it can be a large group, anything from a little community group, a sporting team, a business, a company. Oh my gosh, if I could tell you about all the different companies and businesses that I've dealt with on behalf of clients over the years that are parasitic in nature and have horrific effects on not just the client who works as part of that business or company, but then it would be having a very similar effect on all workers there. It would blow your mind. It would really blow your mind. This is happening way more than what we realise. Church groups or organisations that put a front out that they're a church group. Larger organisations such as governments, smaller groups that thread off from governments. Just think of any type of group, even a community group. You can have a group of people in a street and that can become parasitic, okay? Where there is a parasitic nature that comes into it. When we're talking about these larger groups, what they do is it's not then just one individual that has this parasitic set of behaviors or tendencies. You actually have multiple, and that's usually been there for a long period of time. And what that does is it forms a matrix. That group forms a consciousness, and one of the main consciousness expressions for that group, no matter how many people are in it and no matter how far spanned those people are across our world, one of the main consciousness expressions of that group will be parasitic in nature, meaning they can be that group, and the way that they interact with you, the way that they interact with the rest of the world around them, can have multiple parasitic traits that affect you, that affect people. So it can be invasionary, parasitic natures. And next week, I'm actually going to talk a little bit more specifically about parasites, what their behaviours are, what parts of the body they affect, and the way that that can show up for you as far as symptoms and experiences go. So that'll give you a little bit more idea of what is the ways that this parasitic nature can show up, okay? Because when you're not so aware of it, trying to grasp it the first few times around can be a little bit hard for the mind. You think, oh gosh, a massive group of people and they're all spread apart, or they live in different areas and then they come together maybe once a week, or whatever the situation is. How would that be parasitic to me? That's what the mind often asks. They are, it is sometimes it's unfathomable how huge that is, that parasitic nature. So it can be invasionary to you, where their parasitic traits infiltrate you. It's able to infiltrate the mind, influence the consciousness, influence and affect your attitudes, your behaviors, the way that you view things, the way that you feel about things, the way that you feel about yourself, the decisions that you make, the functioning of your body, any part of the body. And then it can also be drawing. It can take from you. It can strip from you. It can deplete you. It will deplete you, right? So it could do both. But these parasitic factors that come up are not sitting neutrally to you. They are not in benefit to you. So they're not sitting there saying, hey, Jackie, how can I be of service? How can we work together? And then genuinely waiting for that response and then acting on that response. They are either invading or they're sucking, and quite often they're doing both at the same time. And what keeps coming up for me over and over and over again is that we as human beings need to really wise up very quickly as to how prevalent this parasitic nature is in the world around us, whether it be from individual people, whether it be from even a family can be parasitic, and that's quite extraordinary when that happens. You can have energies that are parasitic. I'm not going to talk about that today because that's a whole other topic, but it is very, very common, and there is a high proliferation. If you think about parasites, and when parasites are left to do as they please, they're unchecked, they will just explode. They will grow and grow and grow and grow. And that's exactly what has been happening in recent time. And that's exactly where we are now, where we've had a proliferation of parasitic explosion, parasitic behavior, parasitic mindset. And now this is where all of our innate wisdoms are saying, okay, know this, be alert to this, be aware of it. Do not be scared of it, because there's no reason at all to be scared of it. But now is the time to wise up. Now is the time to learn. Now is the time to really develop our understanding of very solid, strong, clearly defined, healthy boundaries, and be ready to have those asserted every day and when you need them. And get ready to match that with whatever words it is that you need to produce to make sure that you have boundaries against that parasitic nature. And that might be that you say no, or that might be that you say, produce more information for me, because I'm not quite clear about what it is that you're wanting me to do, or you're asking me to do, or, you'll know it when it comes up for you, okay? But it is time. It is here. This is where we are, where if we don't start realizing that what happens down on a micro level, we have parasites in the body, also happens at the macro level, where we have parasites in the world all around us. Parasitic groups, parasitic energies, parasitic people, and that they have absolutely run rampant. And unless nothing changes until we change it, nothing changes until we change it. So it's up to us now as individuals to really wise up to this, and with a strong open heart, just be ready to stand up to these parasitic natures and just do what you feel is right for you in that moment, so that you are not getting taken from, you're not getting sucked from, you're not getting depleted. You don't have systems, organs, endocrine glands getting confused. It's not discombobulating communication through your body-mind complex. It's not sending systems on a wild goose chase where they're performing functions that they're not meant to be performing. The compromise that these can cause in your body is off the charts. You would be absolutely astounded. So if you can identify that you've had some parasitic connections, whether they be with one-on-one people or whether they be with more than one, and you're wondering or feeling that it's still relevant for you, it's left an imprint, it's causing issues, or you just want to know that it's still not a problem for you or causing problems for you, then absolutely have a session. Have a session with me, and it will also help give you clarity and directive on how you then approach things moving forward, what you can do, how you can do that. Because all this does as well is bring clarity to your consciousness. Your awareness becomes clearer. And that is huge. That is just monumentally huge. If you can get that alone, that will make a huge impact for you. All right. Okay, so that's it. That's our next big topic that I wanted to talk to you about as far as parasites go. I did not do overly great with my multitasking again today, but hey, I got a few done, so that's okay. And I've got another 5 minutes, so I can just go for it now before I have to go in for the next client. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. All the details on how you can connect with me, book a session, all that kind of thing will be in the comments below. If it's brought up any questions for you, again, pop it into the comments or send an email through to the office, info@jacquiemcintyre.com, and we will continue the next progression of this conversation next week. Thanks. See you later.